Hello, friend, and welcome to Inside the Dark. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to share a terrifying story with you about a beautiful 25-year-old woman who loved to go to the gym to work out and enjoyed living a healthy lifestyle. But, according to her family, she lived it in fear. Because she had a stalker who had been stalking her for over a year. And despite her efforts to avoid him, he was relentless. And after one final warning to Doris Aguilar, posted to his Facebook in late June of 2024, she went missing and was found dead over 2 weeks later. Her stalker was 51-year-old Juan Cuellar, and according to police, Doris met Cuellar at her job where they worked together over a year ago. And according to Doris, Cuellar targeted her at their place of employment and began making unwanted advances toward her and sending her inappropriate messages. Then he began following her, and she saw him outside her gym on more than one occasion. So she reported him to their employer, and Cuellar was fired from his job. But that didn't stop his interest in Doris. And she told her friends he was still stalking her at her gym. So they said she switched gyms a number of times. But that still didn't stop sick, twisted Cuellar from finding out where her new gyms were, so he could show up at those locations as well to keep stalking her. And the longer it went on, the more terrified Doris got, to the point where her family said she told them that she had a stalker and that she was afraid of him, and that if anything happened to her, it would be because of him. But even though Doris ignored his messages and ignored him when he showed up outside her gym, Cuellar was not going to continue to be ignored for long. And when Doris switched gyms again to get away from him and joined Lifetime Fitness, Cuellar posted one final warning to her on his Facebook page. It read, "Getting my membership back at Lifetime Fitness. See you soon." And the profile picture on his Facebook page was a weapon. He posted his final warning to Doris on June 27th of 2024. Then, on July 1st, Doris disappeared. 7 days later, her car was found in a parking lot outside of a fashion clothing store, unlocked, and with her belongings, including her wallet with cash in it, inside.
The family of a 25-year-old woman who went missing back on July 1st is fearing the worst. Her car was found, but there's been no sign of her.
They now have a private investigator helping with the search who has uncovered quite a bit. True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney digging into that investigation. What were you able to find out so far?
Yeah, so Phoenix police say they are actively investigating 25-year-old Doris Aguilar's disappearance. Most of her belongings were found inside her car, except her cell phone and car keys. A private investigator working with the family and police says Doris told her family she felt in danger from a stalker that wouldn't leave her alone. Her family and friends know 25-year-old Doris Aguilar as a hard worker and health conscious, always at the gym. But things turned from concerning to dire after she disappeared on July 1st. Her car found sitting for days outside a fashion store at the Christown Mall.
They found her purse, her wallet, her passport, credit cards, cash. So it was clear that the motive was not robbery, which was more concerning. The car was unlocked.
Steve Fisher is a private investigator hired by Doris's family, most of whom live in Honduras.
This surveillance from the store is just so critically important.
And do we know if it exists?
Well, we don't.
But Fisher says they've been able to put together some pieces of the puzzle, just unsure of how they all fit together. He says her phone data shows the phone shut off not long after 8 p.m. on July 1st when she went missing. But then it shows activity the next day.
On the 2nd at 9 something in the morning, pinged in Peoria for a very short amount of time.
Doris lives in Phoenix and has no ties to Peoria. Police returned Doris's car to her family after searching it. The search warrant's still inside, now in Fisher's possession. While Doris Aguilar is a missing persons investigation.
This is a homicide search warrant.
The words possible homicide at the top, only escalating fear her family and friends feel knowing Doris had told them about a stalker.
She did tell her family and important people in her life about this person, and that if anything happened to her, that he was responsible, and he scared her.
Fisher says the man kept sending both obsessive and threatening messages to Doris, which she ignored. And after encountering him multiple times in her EOS gym parking lot, she recently switched gyms.
She moved to Lifetime Fitness, and I think the last Facebook post that he's made is a post saying, "Getting my Lifetime membership back, see you soon." And that was on June 27th. 3 days later, never seen her again. And we've never seen him either, because we're looking for him.
Fisher says the man was using fake names online, but Wednesday, Fisher was able to find his real identity.
If we find him, we find her. And that's our focus right now. So that's what we're looking for.
It is important to note police have not named any suspects in her disappearance, but they are actively investigating leads. Fisher says Doris Aguilar had no signs of mental illness or drug abuse. There are no signs at all she left on her own will. Extremely concerning.
So the private investigator able to gather a lot of information, including internet, cell phone information.
Yep.
Anything in there that could help.
So he was able to download everything from T-Mobile, Meta, so Instagram, Facebook, and Google, everything, right? So he said there was really nothing concerning other than the messages that were from the alleged stalker, but he was able to actually see that when she was driving to the Christown Spectrum Mall, she was listening to music on YouTube, and then that abruptly stops. There was nothing after that at all that he was able to see. They're working on trying to get surveillance footage. The Olive Garden in that parking lot was very cooperative, gave him their surveillance footage, but unfortunately Doris's car was just outside the border there, just outside the frame, and you couldn't see. So there's a lot of concern here, obviously, for her well-being.
It's been 17 days now since anyone last saw 25-year-old Doris Marcela Aguilar. She went missing the night of July 1st. Her car was found abandoned 7 days later near I-17 and Bethany Home Road.
And now her family is fearing the worst. Fox 10's Ashley Rodriguez is live tonight with the clues they're trying to piece together in all this. Ashley.
Yeah, her car was found in a mall parking lot. It was unlocked, and inside was her purse and her wallet full of cash. But what really has her family scared is they say that she had a stalker that not only followed her for months, but harassed her as well. Family and friends of 25-year-old Doris Maricela Aguilar consider her a gym rat, a health nut, and a hard worker. In fact, the day before she went missing on July 1st, she had meal prepped. With no history of mental health issues, drug abuse, or disappearing for periods of time, her family immediately notified police their daughter never came home after work that Monday night. Her family says Doris had a stalker. The man was her coworker and began sending her harassing messages. When she reported him, the company fired him, but he kept appearing, sending her messages from an account with a gun as the profile picture. The only photo on the account was of an AR-15 in the back of a car.
She was very scared of him, and she expressed that.
Desperate, her family hired licensed missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher to help find her. He tells me the stalker would show up in the parking lot of the gym she attended, forcing her to switch gyms 3 times.
They're scared to death. I can see the fear in their faces.
I reached out to Phoenix police, who told me they processed her vehicle and are awaiting results, while detectives continue to follow all leads.
Then just days later, the horrifying discovery of Doris's body found in a rental car, rented by her stalker, in a parking lot near her gym, with her stalker's body also inside. Police said Doris was found deceased with a gunshot wound, and her stalker also took his own life. The weapon was found in the rental car. But the private investigator hired by Doris's family said it didn't appear that Doris was murdered in the rental car, but that he had reason to believe her life was taken somewhere else, and she was placed in the rental car after.
Last week, 2 bodies were found inside a car near 75th Avenue in Encanto. And now Phoenix police are identifying those individuals and say this has become a murder-suicide investigation.
25-year-old Doris Aguilar, who had been missing since July 1st, was found with a gunshot wound, while 51-year-old Juan Cuellar was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Thanks so much for joining us. For 12 News at 5, I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. 12 News journalist Bianca Bono talked to a private investigator today who's been searching for Doris. She joins us live outside Phoenix Police headquarters. And Bianca, what did he tell you about this relationship, if there was one, between Doris and Cuellar?
Guys, I'm told Cuellar had been stalking Doris for more than a year, and Doris was so concerned for her own safety, she even alerted family members that if anything happened to her, he had done something. Now, the investigator tells me they initially knew each other because they both worked at the PetSmart distribution center. And in fact, he says Cuellar had been fired from his job there for inappropriate advances toward Doris. But the 51-year-old continued to bombard her with messages. She was passionate about health and fitness, and we're told Cuellar would routinely show up to the gym and wait for her in the parking lot. She changed her gym membership multiple times in order to get away from him, but he kept finding her. Days before Doris went missing, Cuellar posted on his Facebook page that he was getting his gym membership back, and he wrote, "See you soon." Sadly, after going missing on July 1st, police confirmed Doris was found murdered inside of a vehicle with Cuellar. He had self-inflicted injuries. Homicide detectives continue to investigate.
We're still going to work it the same way we do. There's still the intelligence gathering. There's still the homicide investigation to be conducted to really nail down what happened. Not only the who, but what. How this person got there, how they got together, and how they ultimately ended up where they did.
And the private investigator said Doris's car was found abandoned with her personal belongings inside. He believes Cuellar rented a car that she wouldn't recognize and showed up to where she was, threatening her to get into the car with him.
Tonight about the death of a Valley woman who had been missing since July 1st.
Detectives say 25-year-old Doris Aguilar was found dead in a car in West Phoenix 6 days later, and a man found dead in the same car killed himself. The Aguilar family's private investigator opening up tonight about some of the key evidence they were able to uncover. And our true crime correspondent Brianna Whitney has been following this very closely for us.
Yeah, lots of concerning elements here. We've learned a lot of new information today, but we still have more to go. We do now know, though, that Doris Aguilar was found shot to death inside a car along with 51-year-old Juan Cuellar. And this is extremely distressing to Doris's family because they claim Cuellar had been stalking her and she was afraid of him. While the family's private investigator says new clues have emerged from inside that car, he says there also may be another crime scene. 25-year-old Doris Aguilar, first going missing weeks ago, now confirmed dead. Phoenix police now say on July 7th, her body was found in the front seat of a car next to the body of a man Doris's family says was her stalker, 51-year-old Juan Cuellar.
It's just all very sick and twisted.
Steve Fisher is a private investigator hired by Doris's family. Police say while they're investigating Doris's death as a homicide, Juan Cuellar died by suicide. She was last seen on July 1st, leaving to head to a store. Her car found days later at the Christown Mall parking lot with some of her belongings still inside. Fisher says he found out more about Cuellar's connection to the car where their bodies were found.
He rents a car, we know that. That's what they're found in, is a rental car. And most likely that was part of a luring scheme.
Before Cuellar was confirmed dead, too, Fisher was looking for him and says there's an eerie connection to where the car was found with them inside.
The primary place I was doing surveillance was that parking lot. This is a parking lot that's shared by a restaurant, but the gym, EOS gym, is the major tenant there, and that was her primary gym. He would stalk her in that parking lot.
Phoenix Police Sergeant Rob Shear says a key piece of evidence in this investigation now is surveillance footage, starting with where Doris's car was found.
Surveillance video is available there. Surveillance videos available where they ended up. Obviously, we have technology that can hopefully put the pieces together of where travel happened and maybe when they came together.
The private investigator says he learned that when the bodies were found, so was something else. A note he says was written by Juan Queller.
There was a note left. He left a note. He tried to stage it to make it look like she killed herself.
Fisher says there also may be another crime scene, that evidence shows Doris Aguilar did not die inside that car.
But I've been told there's no bioevidence in the vehicle that she was shot in the car, so it looks like she was moved.
Private investigator says he made a promise to Doris Aguilar's family to solve the parts of this case still left unknown.
I've talked to them today, the family, and pledged to them that I'll continue to do whatever investigation I can to get those answers.
And one of those unknowns is the last time Doris's cell phone pinged. She went missing on July 1st around 8 p.m. and cell data shows her phone was shut off shortly after. But the data shows it was turned back on again briefly the next day, July 2nd, and it pinged in Peoria, but nobody knows what the connection is there at this point. So we're waiting to learn.
I've got to imagine, just for her family to know that she was being stalked by this man who's twice her age.
Correct.
And to not know what happened in that interim between the time she went missing to the time she was found. Do they have any idea, like based on the state of the decomposition and stuff like that, when she passed away? Or
Right, so that's actually a really good question, because the medical examiner's office lists the date of death as July 7th, but that's a preliminary report. Okay. That's when the bodies were found in the car, but Rob Shear at Phoenix Police was explaining that that probably will change based on decomposition. It looks like they were in there for several days, and that made it really difficult for identification.
You can only hope for the family's sake that she wasn't in pain for long, you know, because of that extended amount of time that went by.
So terrible.
Oh, Brianna, thank you.
So tragic, sick, and twisted. All Doris wanted to do was live her life in peace and be left alone. But instead, a 51-year-old freak decided to target a woman half his age, stalk her, intimidate her, make her live in fear, and then decided that if he couldn't have her, nobody could. All because she happened to get a job where he worked. Or he probably would have never met her at all, and she'd still be alive today. How terrifying it is to think that through no fault of your own, just by living your life, you can be targeted by a psycho, stalked by a psycho, and have your life ended by a psycho who saw you one day and decided if he or she couldn't have you, then nobody else would either. Thank you again for joining me for this episode of Inside the Dark. Take care, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories.